There have already been some high-profile arrests of undocumented immigrants in the North Country since the Trump immigration crackdown began. At a Tupper Lake sawmill, a Sackett's Harbor dairy farm, and others, even some we may not know about. One village in the Adirondacks has been wrestling with how its police force should respond if ICE comes to town. That's today's story of the day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Clarkson University, offering over 95 programs of study with campuses in the Hudson Valley, Central, and Northern New York. More at clarkson.edu.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Friday, dear Friday, November 21st. First up, State Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani will be New York City's mayor when he returns to Albany, and he'll be pushing an ambitious agenda that includes possible tax hikes. Jimmy Vielkind with the New York Public News Network reports.
Mamdani has a long wish list from New York State government. Free bus fares from the state-controlled MTA, funding for universal child care, and higher taxes to pay for it. Governor Hochul says she has concerns about raising income taxes and the busing plans, but allies of the mayor-elect say his time as a state lawmaker will be an asset. Mike Gianaris is the deputy majority leader of the state Senate. He says Mamdani's election means something.
Those of us who worked with him and were friends with him will treat him warmly, but there will also be a recognition throughout the legislature of the mandate he was elected with.
Mamdani says he's confident he can work with state officials. In Albany, I'm Jimmy Vielkind for the New York Public News Network.
A federal jury in Rochester awarded what's believed to be the largest wrongful conviction award in U.S. history. The money will go to the estate of one of the so-called Buffalo Five. The New York Public News Network's Mike Mroziak has more.
$80 million. That was the award a federal jury awarded the estate of Darrell Boyd, one of the Buffalo Five, who was found to be wrongly convicted in 1977 for the murder of William Crawford in the victim's Buffalo home. Boyd, John Walker, and Darren Gibson spent decades in jail. Boyd and Walker later contended police and prosecutors withheld evidence and coerced a witness to offer false testimony. In 2021, their convictions were vacated and their indictments were wiped away. But Boyd, speaking in 2022, still lamented the years taken away from him.
I always ask myself, man, why was you kidnapped and then framed? And then after that, unlawfully detained. And then after that, put through suffering, pain, and misery. And then only be returned back to the location where I was kidnapped from to be up under the supervision of parole. I just want to know what's going on with it.
That year, Boyd and Walker filed a $224 million lawsuit against the city of Buffalo and Erie County. Walker was awarded a $28 million judgment. Boyd died earlier this year, but his attorney, Spencer Durland, says he remained hopeful up to the end he would receive a favorable judgment.
I see it as a complete vindication for Darrell Boyd and for John Walker, too, who's litigated a similar case arising out of the same 1977 prosecution. Darrell, for decades, kept the faith that if he had the chance to tell his story, that he would see a measure of justice.
The Erie County Attorney's Office says it plans to appeal, but will begin with motions including asking the judge to reduce the award. In Buffalo, I'm Michael Mroziak for the New York Public News Network.
A resolution passed this fall by the Saranac Lake Village Board has sparked a debate over immigration enforcement. The bill was originally meant to prevent local police from using money or officers to assist federal agents in President Trump's immigration crackdown. But after months of debate and several amendments, the final version of the resolution stopped short of that goal. Some say turning away federal officials could have made the village a target for retaliation from the Trump administration. But as David Escobar reports, other village residents say the bill is watered down and leaves immigrants vulnerable.
To understand Saranac Lake Bill 126, you have to go back to February. That's when village trustee Aurora White says she started hearing from immigrant neighbors who were suddenly afraid to leave their homes. White says some residents were being harassed by other locals. Even people with legal status were worried about what might happen if Immigration and Customs Enforcement ever carried out a raid in the village.
These are members of our community who have lived here for years, and we've never asked them about their citizenship status. We've never had cause to. They're contributing members of our community, and they were afraid to do normal day-to-day activities.
So White introduced a resolution called Safeguarding Our Residents and Our Financial Resources. Since village police don't work with ICE now, the bill would have barred local police from using village officers or money to assist federal immigration enforcement in the future. White says it also would have made sure local resources stay focused on local policing.
It was not a political ploy, but really just worried about our community and the funds that we allocate to the police force.
But when White introduced the bill, it immediately drew skepticism. In a village board meeting in February, opponents, including Mayor Jimmy Williams, argued Saranac Lake shouldn't wade into national politics.
While we do have a tumultuous political picture outside Saranac Lake, my responsibility and everybody on this board is to Saranac Lake.
Williams didn't respond to interview requests for this story. In that board meeting, he said the village could risk losing millions of dollars in federal grant funding if it passed anything that appeared to defy federal immigration law. White's original resolution failed. After months of revisions, a scaled-back version passed in December. It stripped out the language barring local police from cooperating with ICE altogether. Instead, the bill states that the village opposes hate and discrimination, and that everyone, regardless of their immigration status, has equal access to public safety. Trustee White says it's a good proclamation to have on the books, but it loses the heart of her original resolution.
It's essentially empty words.
And it's not just Trustee White. Saranac Lake Police Chief Darren Perotti says the bill is pretty much redundant.
Many people would be surprised to know that, there are already policies in place that dictate that we're going to provide fair and unbiased policing. So this is not a new concept at all, right?
Perotti met with White when she drafted the bill. He says he gets why some people wanted the village to take a stronger stance to protect immigrants, but he also understands why critics felt it could paint a target on Saranac Lake with the Trump administration. Either way, he says immigration enforcement simply isn't part of his officers' jobs.
On a everyday basis, we're not questioning people about their immigration status. It just doesn't pertain to our enforcement of the penal law.
When ICE conducts raids, they don't have to loop in local police. Earlier this year, when agents raided a wood mill in Tupper Lake, Perotti says local officers weren't involved at all. Perotti told me that if ICE ever did call, his officers would offer the same limited help they provide to any outside agency, things like confirming an address or responding to reports of violence. But he doesn't expect ICE to ask for backup from village officers, and he says he wants to keep his department's work focused on local policing.
We're tasked with patrolling and serving the citizens of the village of Saranac Lake. We're plenty busy doing that.
Still, some locals worry the village's pared-down resolution on immigration leaves room for concern. While immigrants make up less than 1% of Saranac Lake's population, their work under seasonal federal visas drives the hospitality industry. Village resident Steve Ehrman says increased immigration enforcement could put that workforce at risk and jeopardize the entire community.
If people are afraid to show up for jobs, or people are on jobs and they end up being swept up, they're detained, taken in possibly for deportation, and what pain that can cause to those families, but also the pain that can cause to entrepreneurs.
Rich Lober, who supported the original resolution at village board meetings, says the fear of deportations is about more than the economy. He says he's concerned about immigrant safety and that some may avoid calling emergency services because they don't feel safe.
If they had a fire in their house, they would be hesitant to call the fire department. If there was a burglary, they would be hesitant to call the police department. That situation exists now in the village, and it shouldn't be that way.
For Trustee White, that's the core problem. She says trust is fragile, and the village needs to be clearer about how it'll protect its immigrant neighbors.
I think they deserve to know that we're committed to each other and that the Saranac Lake Village Police Department can be trusted just like they always have.
White says the debate over the resolution may be settled, but the fears that sparked it haven't gone away. David Escobar, North Country Public Radio, Saranac Lake.
David Escobar is a Report for America Corps member. He reports on diversity issues in the Adirondacks through a partnership between us, North Country Public Radio, and Adirondack Explorer. Music today by Zoe Knight of Potsdam and Patricia Julian of Burlington. Have a great weekend. I'm David Summerstein, North Country Public Radio.